Thomas Village is located on Rio Grande Boulevard, opposite the La Montanita Co-op. So it's just north of I-40. And it was developed back in the early 70s, and there are in 4 phases. Well, each of those phases has its own set of bylaws and its own set of covenants, and they don't match. In fact, the newer communities are much more eco-friendly. One of the communities said you had to have all grass in your yard. Well, come on. But the problem was there was nothing built into the covenant about renewal. It was an automatic renewal of the covenant, and you would have to get 70% of the homeowners to agree to change a covenant. So Thomas Village Neighborhood Association had some issues with some of the covenants, but also when the development continued, 3 of the 4 areas, one is an area of patio homes, a second is a smaller group of different patio homes, and the third area is the newest part of the development, which I think was finished in the mid-'80s, and it is homes in the front part of the area. This whole area had been a farm when it started out. Anyway, there's the oldest part in the back towards the bosque has no HOA. All 3 of the other groups have HOAs. And each HOA on top of the development covenants developed their own covenants. And of course, HOAs are when you buy a home that's in an HOA area, of course, you're notified by the realtor, you have to understand what the covenants are and agree to live with them. So that means you can't necessarily make renovations unless you check with the architectural committees first, or you do other things. Well, as time went on and a lot of the covenants went out of style, in the main part in the back, or I shouldn't say main, biggest part in the back, we didn't meet the covenant needs for the way the houses were supposed to look. And there were lots of people with, first it was, what are the dishes that were all over the place early with the television. And then there were a variety of other things to which the homeowners associations objected, even though we weren't part of their of their homeowners association area. That was sort of a spark that got the neighborhood association to think, we're all part of the same neighborhood, for Pete's sake. And so while we may have covenants that apply to our given area, we should also be aware of what other folks are, and so that we at least let them know what the plans are, kind of what one of us was talking about too. What's going on? So we, at that point, the Thomas Village Neighborhood Association asked for each of the boards to give a member to come to the Neighborhood Association board. And we asked that they would at least attend for a year and then feedback to the Homeowners Association boards so that they could have input on what we were doing, and we could have input on the impact on the neighborhood as a whole. You can imagine that since these areas were, even though they're literally next door, no walls separate them or anything like that, there was a real sense of, well, I live in the meadows, or I live in the patio homes, and didn't really want to interact. Well, we also started sharing, Thomas Village decided to start a newsletter, get a directory every year with all the neighborhood areas included in the directory. At first it was, Xeroxed, probably mimeographed back in the day. Some of you remember what that was like anyway. But it would be volunteers would hand deliver it to every household, okay? Now we create a nice looking directory. We have a group of people who have volunteered to verify addresses and who lives where in their given immediate, road, street, whatever, and gather that information. Two of the homeowners associations did not want to share that information initially. I said it was private, even though you could find it on the city websites, that it was none of our business, and they didn't want to help at first. Then they saw the first directory come out, and they all wanted copies of it. So we made them pay for the copies, but we also then updated the next one to include everybody's, and people got on board. And that led to, we have an annual picnic. And before the annual picnic, we had 50 people or so show up, and it was always fun. We had kids' games, and the city brought the climbing walls, and we had the fire department's right down the street. They came with a hook and ladder, kids, all over the place. And we invited everybody, but truly only the folks in Thomas Village, the back part, which is called Thomas Village, really showed up. After the directories and with the success of those, and then having a newsletter start quarterly, again with a group of neighbors who volunteered to do this, and as you said, it's a lot of work to produce the paper every quarter, but it was worth it. People liked the newsletter. They liked to know what was going on and suddenly at the picnic we had 110 people show up. Ran out of food the first time. Not a good thing at a picnic, but what it has allowed and has continued now. There's an annual picnic every fall. Everyone's invited. We play bingo. The local businesses donate gift certificates or something the kids and adults can win. And it's really joined people together. When we cut it down from 4 hours to 2 hours, people were saying, no, you can't do that. I want to play more bingo. So anyway, so what's happened in working with the boards of the HOAs within the neighborhood's geographical area has really focused on what could we do from a social aspect to create the feeling of community, as well as how can we communicate to create community. We started a listserv or a email list group within the community that people are over 3/4 of the people who live there now, there are 360 homes, are on the listserv. So people post things that are of interest to the community, and we have a manager who makes sure that if something that's out of the ordinary or a fuming episode doesn't appear on the listserv. But it really has been a successful thing in bringing us together. One last thing is we had some crime spikes in our area. We had a relatively unsuccessful project, although it was a good community builder. We wanted to put surveillance cameras across the street at La Montanita, and they agreed to have that in their parking lot that could picture the car license plates coming in and out, so that if there were thefts or break-ins or car vandalism or whatever, that we could then identify the car and tell the police, and the police would call us and so forth when incidents were reported. For 2 years, we tried to make that work. Either there was something wrong with the camera, or we didn't have enough expertise. We had volunteers who were good with cameras and stuff, but they couldn't quite make it work. On the other hand, it brought the community together on becoming more aware of suspicious things. We have lots of walkers in the morning. They watch, they report. We have had more reports. I think 311 hates us. I think 242 Cops is curious about why there are all these reports. But it has really helped. We had a significant drop in the crime rate in our neighborhood because people got involved in being the watchers, being the eyes, in the community. So thank you.